our sheriff's candidates. If I could have our two sheriff candidates in the room, Kalvin, Barrett, and Jack Ordman, up. Take a seat, whichever seat you would like. I will start with introductions, and then we'll go again into 3-minute introductions and a 1 minute for our questions. I start by introducing our sitting sheriff, Kalvin Barrett. Kalvin Barrett has been the Dane County Sheriff since 2021, when he was appointed the first African-American sheriff in the county's history. And he won a full term in 2022. Before that, Kalvin worked as a Dane County deputy, taught criminal justice at Madison College, and then returned to the department. He's a UW-Madison graduate and played football there under Barry Alvarez. As sheriff, he expanded co-response teams that pair deputies with mental health professionals, focused on treatment and re-entry programs, and declined to enter into federal 287G immigrant enforcement agreements. Jack Ordman grew up in Milwaukee, came to Dane County for school at UW-Madison, and settled here in 2022 to build his life. He works full-time as a software engineer and has never run for office before. In his own words, Jack has never even published an opinion piece until this spring. He chose to run only 3 days before the filing deadline, motivated by the sheriff's response to the protests outside a beagle breeding facility in Dane County. Jack believes that being a good sheriff isn't just about job experience, it's about leadership, judgment, and accountability. Please join me in welcoming our candidates for sheriff. Like before, each candidate will get 3 minutes to introduce themselves and explain why they're running, and after that, we will have 10 minutes for questions. By random drawing, we'll start with Sheriff Barrett.
Thank you. There he is. I was waiting for him. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm your Dane County Sheriff, Kalvin Barrett, and as it was mentioned earlier, there's a lot of things that you can find on the website or that you can look into that was read earlier about my qualifications. And so many times, people talk about what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. But what I like to focus on is why I'm doing it. I want you to know why I have such a love and an appreciation for our profession. There are deputies that are in this room, there are families of deputies that are in this room, and I want everybody here to understand why I decided to get into this profession 17 years ago. It started when I was 12 years old, and my sister was 2, and my dad and I were going to go to the park to play ball. He unknowingly formed a blood clot in his leg, and that blood clot went to his heart, and he collapsed on the floor in the living room of our town hall. I will never forget the voice of that 911 operator when she taught me how to do CPR on my father. I will never forget the firefighter who took me and my sister upstairs to play Nintendo while they were working to revive my father. I will never forget the aftershave, the smell of the paramedic that hugged me before they loaded my father into the ambulance to take him away. That's why I am in this position, and that's why I started this profession of service 17 years ago. Now the question is, well, why sheriff? It's very important. In 2020, we all realized where we were as a society. There was a lot of civil unrest after the terrible murder of George Floyd. We were entering into a 100-year global pandemic. And while I was sitting there on the couch watching two worlds that I'm a part of, one as an African-American man in America, and the other as a law enforcement officer or a peace officer, I saw two worlds at each other. And I realized by being in both of these that I have an understanding and an experience to be in the middle and say we have way more in common than we realize. And I can hear my high school football coach, Ed Cardberry, in the back of my head while I'm sitting on the couch watching chaos on television saying, if not you, then who? Who's going to stand up and be that voice in the middle to talk to the African-American community to say, yeah, we want to be safe. We want to make sure our schools are safe, but we don't want excessive force. But also on the law enforcement side to say, hey, people want us to be there, but we just have to do the right thing and hold ourselves accountable. Those are the things. And let me tell you, I was teaching at Madison College. I had it good. I had holidays off. I had weekends off. I only had one cell phone. I might have taken a few Fridays off in that time, but I had time with my children and my daughters, and I gave that up for you. I gave that up to bring these two worlds together, and that's why I'm running for re-election as your Dane County Sheriff.
So this is actually the first time Sheriff Barrett and I have met, which is a interesting introduction to say the least. But my name is Jack Ordman. I'm a software engineer and a 10-year Dane County resident, and I'm running for sheriff as a civilian. And you might be asking yourselves why. The reason is, on April 18th at Ridgeland Farms, I stood with 1,000 nonviolent people when our sheriff's department met them with tear gas, pepper spray, and less lethal rounds. The first thing I saw was an elderly woman unable to stand, snot dripping down her face after being tear gassed. As I and others helped her, I was gassed myself repeatedly. The response I saw from Dane County Sheriff's Office was horrifying and out of control. I watched a deputy reach through a fence to grab a woman holding up a white flower to the fence, to pull her against it and mace her relentlessly. One man was beaten at the fence line, knocked unconscious for 14 minutes, and lost several teeth. I watched our deputies take orders and direction from private security contractors, and Sheriff Barrett I did not see on the front lines that day. The office's own statement that day said that, quote, order was maintained without anybody being seriously injured. That's partially correct. There's no evidence that any officers were injured, while plenty of demonstrators suffered serious injury. Later, Sheriff Barrett cited, quote, preliminary reports that demonstrators jumped on deputies, beat them with their batons, and tried to take their weapons. The abundance of footage from that day unequivocally does not support that. 3 months on, he's never substantiated that and never corrected it. When a law enforcement official manufactures a violence narrative to retroactively justify their use of force, we have seen that recipe play out over and over again across the country. We know exactly where it leads. Obama's DOJ built its civil rights process on exactly this premise. A department's account of its own use of force must survive the evidence. It saddens me deeply to see that violated here in Dane County. And it is especially dangerous when Obama's work is being dismantled and ICE runs rampant across our country. As that happens, it falls to local law enforcement to hold those standards on principle. But when that fails, the check falls to us as voters. So I ask 3 questions. God forbid there's ever an officer-involved shooting here in Dane County. The first account we get that night will be Sheriff Barrett's, and his account of Ridgeland did not survive 3 days. Why should we expect his account to go any better when the stakes are that much higher? When the next protest happens on State Street, with pressure building from business owners to clear it, tear gas was the first move, and Barrett demonstrated that he will defer the office to private interests. I'll defer my third question since I ran out of time, but I want a county where the press release survives the footage and where the law means the same thing no matter who is asking. Thank you.
Thank you both. We'll be going into a audience question and answer portion. Again, we have 10 minutes, and to get through as many questions as we can, we're going to limit answers to 1 minute each, timekeepers. If you have a question, make sure that it is short as possible and that it is directed to both candidates. So with that, we got a question. I saw a hand go up in the back. Do you want to come up and speak so that folks here can hear you? Come on up.
All right, I've probably not used one of these before in my life. Let's see. So, flock safety represents a serious threat to the privacy and well-being of each and every Wisconsinite, regardless of how well they may or may not follow the law. The CEO of the company has stated that anybody who stands against their mission is, quote, a domestic terrorist, even when said mission, if it continues and expands, may very well be in violation of the US Constitution, the Fourth Amendment specifically. So, what is your goal? What is your methodology going to be in stymieing the continued expansion of a mass surveillance system in this country, especially when it is precisely police that are typically implicated in using this technology to stalk women and even young girls.
All right, we're gonna bounce back forth in here, so we'll start with you, Jack.
So I have 2 points on mass surveillance, and I'm unequivocally against flock cameras. One reason being that when we spend our county resources on things like mass surveillance, when we already have deputies on endless mandatory overtime, it is not a responsible use of our county resources, given the risks that these vendors tend to introduce to our county and our constituents. And 2, I will say that the county board did have to force Barrett's hand to discontinue the flock camera system. They had to vote, I think it was a 30-2 vote or something like that. And after doing so, Barrett attacked them in the media, saying that they wouldn't hesitate to again, take more of his budget away. Sorry, I'm blanking. I think that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate the question and your bravery in coming up and talking, but it's important as the sheriff to make sure that there's accurate information that's being shared. Even tonight, there's a lot of inaccurate information. And as we've seen on the national level, what has that done to our society when there's misinformation and disinformation? I'm here to set the record straight in regards to what Flock is, what it isn't, and what our role is. So number one, Flock is a simple company. As many people who have come to me and have talked about the op-ed that I put into the papers about rural communities, it is a technology that we support. Flock is a company that made their own bed. Their CEO said what he said. They violated the trust of the people, and I was okay with them not being our vendor. The Dane County Board supports this technology because, as mentioned, we can't put deputies on every single corner. The largest district we have in Dane County for our deputies to patrol is 164 square miles of land. One deputy. This technology helps us in the rural areas find missing individuals for amber alerts, silver alerts, green alerts, and has helped us solve 4 homicides in 2015. So it's not just the technology or the company, it's the use, and when you hire the right people and have appropriate policies in place, it can be used appropriately, just like anything else in society. Thank you.
Next question from someone in the audience. Anybody? I'll take, I saw a couple. How about Claudia? Coming up.
Thanks, Ryan. Mine is a question and a concern. I'm always happy in an election when we have primaries because I think it gives us, the voter, a clear picture of what our choices are. I'm concerned right now with the caliber of campaign that we're having. I'm glad Mr. Ordman has jumped in because that gives us a choice. But when I have to make a choice about a candidate, I want to make sure I research who that candidate is and what they stand for. And what I found in this campaign is that the question is, many of the responses I see by your supporters in response to whatever issue is out there is one-dimensional, and it feels almost like trolling and not answering the question of what you stand for in responsible policing. So how will you make that difference with your supporters?
I think it's on. Thank you, Claudia. Thank you, and just to add some more insight to what's going on and what she's specifically talking about, it is heartbreaking to see the racism, talking about my big lips, my big nose, being called the N-word, and people leaving voicemail saying that they want to hang me and my 2 young daughters from a tree. This is what I face, and if you don't believe me, go to my social media page and just look at it. If you don't know what POS stands for, Google it. All of the things that are taking place here are attacking not just me and what I've done, but what I stand for, and it's violent, it's not necessary, and it's racist. And this is what we fought very hard to do to get rid of. So as I have friends like many of you that are here that see the things that are taking place, and knowing no one from this campaign on the other side stepping in and saying, you know what, that is inappropriate. We are better than this. If I was your sheriff, I would stop people from saying racist things to my opponent, and we have yet to see that. But I keep in mind every single day what Michelle Obama said. When they go low, we go high.
So, I'm a green candidate. I'm just gonna spend 5 seconds on the prior thing that I wanted to say before, which is on the flock cameras. What I was going to follow that up with was, following those statements, there was a second officer charged in Milwaukee weeks after with misuse of the flock system. But moving on to the direct question, because it's a very important one. And if you're saying that I have not said anything on my campaign against those things, I unequivocally do not support racism or those types of comments. I want this to be a respectable, productive discussion for the county. I have reached out to you on your Facebook, both publicly in comments and privately, asking for that. And I will condemn anybody who is going to be racist, go below the belt, or anything like that. That is not part of my campaign. That is absolutely not what I stand for. And I detest the accusation that those things are something that I stand for. But when you have national attention on an issue for a company that operated nationally with people impassioned, some of the vitriol that you'll see is from supporters who are just angry and upset about what happened at Richland. And I'm not saying it justifies those specific things, but it is not a way to discredit or invalidate the points that those people are trying to make. And there is a clear distinction between groups of people who are online trolling and people who are impassioned about animal rights and stand for those things and have grave concerns about the misinformation that has come from our county sheriff. Thank you.
All right, I think we have time for one more question, if somebody's got one. I did, oh.
I'll give you one if you know the
I think,
You go ahead.
yeah, come on up.
Sometimes. My question is, this works? I'm just
Yes.
gonna fix it. Okay. My question for both of you is, community is something I'm extremely involved in and believe in. And so what I wanna know, and I personally really believe our elected leaders need to be involved in our community. And so, can you give me organizations, local events, community initiatives that you've been already actively involved in my county, Dane County? I think it's one of the best ways to build relationships, and I want to see that in our sheriff continue.
That's a completely fair question, and I will fully admit that I am green, I'm young, I'm new to Dane County politics. What I can speak to is my track record as an activist going to Black Lives Matter protests in Milwaukee, in Madison. It is something I have always been heavily involved in and passionate about. Ridgeland is kind of the first time where I've dipped my toes in the water of a cause that I can get behind and care about. And as I'm, growing into my community and realizing that I want to be more involved, this is something that I'm absolutely going to be doing more of. I've joined the League of Women Voters. I've joined Dane Dems. I've always been a Democrat, but I am a private person. And like my intro said, I never even published an opinion piece before this. And I would urge you all to read my letter on Substack as an open letter to Dane County. And I will be more active in our community, and it is something that I do have a track record of. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate the advocacy for the Black Lives Matter and showing up to events in Milwaukee. But let me tell everyone here, I live Black Lives Matter. I am Black Lives Matter. And my 2 biracial children live it every single day. So I don't need to go to a rally to show support for it because I can't hide my skin color. In regards to what I stand for and what I do, I'm on the board of directors for the United Way of Dane County. I'm on the board of directors for Tellurian Inc., which helps with individuals going through mental health crisis. I have been on the board, I'm on the board of the Badger State Sheriff's Association Legislative Committee, where we're fighting hard to get rid of the 287 agreements and things that we've talked about, like the Senate Bill 57. If you didn't know, I was the first sheriff in the state of Wisconsin to speak out against the Republicans' bill to mandate sheriffs cooperate with ICE. I have been the first one. Being sheriff is not who I am. It's not what I am. It's who I am. Whether I'm wearing this badge or this uniform, I'm going to be the same Kalvin Barrett serving you and the community and speaking for our underrepresented communities. Thank you.
That is the end of our Q&A period. Please join me in thanking our 2 sheriff's candidates.